What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be talking about my hopes for Call of Duty 2020. Now, there have been quite a few rumours spreading over the last few months about what the game might actually be. So far it seems to heavily be leaning towards the next Black Ops installment. However, Black Ops was the previous game before Modern Warfare, and they usually have a 3-year cycle, so as likely as Black Ops could be, it could just as easily be something completely different. The initial rumours mentioned that the game could be titled Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and again, none of this is confirmed by any means. This entire video is essentially just speculation, but a lot of this news was coming from a ton of different credible sources within the Call of Duty community, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Black Ops Cold War is the next title in the franchise. To me, that title actually sounds like it could be another reboot. Obviously, they rebooted Modern Warfare, starting fresh from the old series, and in this case it does seem like that could be possible with the Black Ops series now, since the Cold War part of that title doesn't really match with the current Black Ops series, unless maybe this one is a prequel to some of the others. Now, on paper, I generally don't like the idea of reboots at all. I've never really understood them, and especially when it's something like Modern Warfare, which was being made only 10 to 13 years ago, I always got pretty confused why they would do a reboot of something that isn't even that old. With that being said, Modern Warfare, as in the current Modern Warfare, is arguably one of the better Call of Duty games ever made, and it really did turn around my thoughts completely on the idea of a reboot. After playing Modern Warfare and seeing familiar characters mixed amongst new characters with a new spin on the story, I actually really enjoyed that, and it pretty much just felt like an alternate universe within the franchise, so like I said, I quickly turned from not being a fan of the reboot to actually really liking it. Now that that's the case, I think I actually do want the same thing for the Black Ops franchise, and if this Black Ops Cold War title is real, then I do honestly think that might be what's happening. For me personally, Black Ops 1, closely followed by Black Ops 2, are my absolute favourite installments in the Call of Duty franchise, and a lot of that was to do with the setting of the game, at least mostly for Black Ops 1. I absolutely loved the Cold War type setting, having a bit of Vietnam stuff in there, having the special ops combat between the Americans and the Russians. Overall, it just felt like a really great setting to focus on that really hadn't been covered that much before, and the time frame also just really worked for the game as well. With World War II games, for example, usually they'll have an awesome setting and a great atmosphere, but often the weapons and gadgets can be a bit of a letdown gameplay wise, since obviously back then the military tech was nowhere near what it is today. If you then have a current modern day setting for Call of Duty games, in my opinion the guns, gadgets and all that kind of thing are much better. However, I also don't really like that setting as much, as it's often made up compared to being real wars that have happened throughout history. Well, with that Cold War setting, you really do get the best of both worlds. Being set in the late 70s and 80s, you get a lot of pretty modern weapons that are actually still used a lot today, with half of those guns actually being used right now in Modern Warfare, but you also get that really atmospheric setting for the game, since the setting itself isn't modern even though the weapons are, and obviously the Cold War was a real thing, which just makes it feel much more exciting and realistic. In my opinion, the Cold War setting is one of the most perfect balances between these two situations, and so personally I will be absolutely stoked if we do get to go back to that original Black Ops type of setting and relive it all over again. Now, speaking of reliving Black Ops all over again, one thing that I really would like to see in the next game is a much more similar style to Black Ops when it comes to the pacing and the time to kill. I do really enjoy Modern Warfare as it is, but if I'm going to be honest, I think the time to kill is just way too fast. It really is a game of who can see their enemy first, because whoever sees the enemy first will win that gunfight 99 times out of 100. For me personally, I do like it to be a little bit of a slower pace than it is in Modern Warfare currently, as I think it allows for a little bit more skill in the gunplay, having a chance to actually survive being shot at and then trying to outplay your opponents, as well as being much more forgiving for beginners, since they just get that slightest bit of extra time to try and win the gunfight. I know Call of Duty is a very fast-paced, chaotic game at all times, no matter what the title is, and I do love that about the franchise. It's so much more energetic and exciting than any other shooter I've ever played, but there is a fine line between excitement and pure chaos, and I think if they were to make the time to kill just slightly slower, back to something like Black Ops 1 or 2, then that would still keep that chaotic gameplay while being just the slightest bit more forgiving. Now, lastly, in regards to the gunplay, I would love for the next game to have a very similar style of gunplay as Modern Warfare has, in terms of just the way the weapons work, the way the recoil works and all that kind of stuff, as even though it is very unique compared to the other Call of Duty titles, I do think it's honestly the best gunplay in any Call of Duty game, and to go back to what it was would feel like a slight step down. The old style of gunplay was amazing, don't get me wrong. Call of Duty has always been known for its super smooth gameplay, but I do think they nailed it on the head with Modern Warfare, giving it such a nice change of pace and just freshening up the game a bit, as obviously having the same engine and this same gameplay across however many titles prior to that, it does lead to the gameplay getting very, very stale. Overall, the main thing I want from the new Call of Duty is just to be a similar setting to the original Black Ops, not continuing on with the current Black Ops series, as honestly the more futuristic stuff just doesn't do it for me. And so if I did have one single request, then that would definitely be it, that it would be set in the Cold War in the late 70s and 80s. Let me know down below what you guys would love to see for the next Call of Duty installment. Obviously none of this Black Ops stuff is confirmed, so it could honestly be anything at this point, so let me know what you guys hope to see. That is going to do it for this one though, guys. If you enjoy the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new, then consider subscribing to the channel with those notifications on. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.